When you want to really understand a major historical figure, you kind of have to look backward. You have to look at the people, the stories, and the world that set the stage long before they were ever born. Today, we're digging into the incredible legacy that was forged in the generations before the Prophet Muhammad.
So let's just start with this big question. How is a legacy actually built? I mean, is it about money, power, or is it something deeper, something that gets passed down through a family, generation after generation?
See, for the Prophet, the foundation of his legacy didn't just start with him, not at all. It was a story that was already unfolding, a reputation built on the pretty remarkable lives of his father, his grandfather, and his great-grandfather.
And we're going to start our journey with the person closest to him, his father, Abdullah. His is a short but absolutely unforgettable story of destiny and sacrifice.
Now, Abdullah wasn't just any young man in Makkah. He was the smartest, the most respected, and without a doubt, the most beloved son of the city's leader, Abdul-Muttalib. But a solemn vow his father had made years before was about to put his entire life on the line.
So, what was this vow all about? Well, it all boiled down to the number 10. Years earlier, his father Abdul-Muttalib had made a promise. If he was ever blessed with 10 sons, who all grew up to be men, he would sacrifice one of them at the Holy Kaaba. And, well, that day finally came.
So when it was time, they used the ancient custom of drawing divination arrows. It was kind of like casting lots to see what fate had in store. And in this moment of pure, gut-wrenching tension, the arrow pointed directly to his absolute favorite son, Abdullah. Bound by his oath, a heartbroken Abdul-Muttalib got ready to do the unthinkable.
But the leaders of Makkah, along with Abdullah's whole family, they begged him to find another way. So, following the diviner's advice, they drew lots again. On one side, Abdullah, on the other, 10 camels. The arrow chose Abdullah. They added 10 more camels, still Abdullah. This went on until there were 100 camels on the line, and only then did the arrow finally point to the camels. A life was spared, and a huge new precedent was set. From then on, 100 camels became the standard price for blood money, the compensation for a life, all across Arabia.
So after all that drama, Abdullah married the noble Amina bint Wahab, but his life was tragically short. On a trading journey, he got sick and died in Medina. He was only 25 years old, just a few months before his son Muhammad was even born. And he didn't leave much behind, just a very modest inheritance of 5 camels, a few goats, and a loyal servant, Barakah, who would actually go on to become the Prophet's beloved nursemaid.
So you have to wonder, where did a vow that dramatic even come from? Well, now we go back one generation to the man who made it, Abdul-Muttalib, the Prophet's grandfather. He was this totally revered leader whose own legacy was cemented by 2 legendary, almost miraculous events.
Okay, first up, he rediscovered the sacred well of Zamzam. It had been lost for generations, but he was guided to it by visions in his dreams. This single act really locked in his family's prestigious role as the ones who provided water for all the pilgrims. And second, and even more famous, was his unwavering stand during what's known as the Event of the Elephant.
Okay, the Event of the Elephant. This thing plays out like an absolute epic. It all started when this Abyssinian ruler named Ar-Raheeq built a huge, magnificent church in Yemen. He was hoping to pull the Arab pilgrimage away from Mecca. Well, when his church was defiled, he swore revenge and marched on the Kaaba with a massive army led by actual war elephants. But just as they reached the valley right outside the city, something incredible happened. The lead elephant just knelt. It refused to move one step closer to the holy site.
And then, the climax. It was this absolutely stunning, divine intervention. There's a real sense of awe in how the sources describe it. Swarms of birds just appeared in the sky, carrying these little stones of baked clay, and they hurled them down on Ar-Raheeq's army, completely wiping them out.
And get this incredible event happened just 50 or 55 days before the Prophet Muhammad was born. For everyone in Arabia and even beyond, this was seen as a clear, unmistakable sign of divine protection. It proved the sacredness of the Kaaba, and it cemented the prestige of the family that served as its guardian, the family of Abdul-Muttalib.
So you have to ask, where did all this family prominence even come from? To find out, we got to go back one more generation, to the man whose name the family proudly carries, Hashim, the Prophet's great-grandfather.
His real name wasn't even Hashim. It was Amr. He actually earned the name Hashim, which comes from an Arabic verb that means to crumble bread, because of his legendary generosity. During the pilgrimage season, he would personally provide food for everyone, crumbling bread into a rich broth for all the tired travelers. It was this huge act of service and hospitality.
But here's the thing. He wasn't just generous. He was a brilliant strategist. Hashim was the one who established the two great merchant caravans of the Quraysh tribe. One went to Syria in the summer and the other to Yemen in the winter. These trade routes basically became the economic engine of Makkah, and they established his family not just as kind hosts, but as powerful, savvy leaders of commerce.
Okay, so we've seen this incredible, direct line of leaders, right? But the lineage doesn't just stop there. Historical records actually try to trace this family back even further, like deep into the ancient past.
So when you look at the records, genealogists basically lay out three different versions. The first one is widely authenticated, tracing the family back to a well-known ancestor named Adnan. Then there's a second version, which is a bit more debated, that tries to trace the line all the way to Abraham. And finally, a third version, which is known to have some inaccuracies, tries to connect the lineage all the way back to Adam himself. But look, at the end of the day, it's not really about proving every single name in the chain. It's about understanding the sheer depth of this history and what it all meant. Back in that world, having a deep, traceable lineage was the ultimate source of honor and legitimacy. We're talking about a chain of ancestors stretching back dozens and dozens of generations, connecting this one family in Makkah to the foundational stories of the entire region.
So what you end up with is this amazing story arc. It kicks off with Hashim, the generous founder who built a reputation for service and economic smarts. It continues with his son, Abdul-Muttalib, who is seen as his divinely protected guardian. Each generation added another critical layer of honor, leadership, and spiritual weight to the family's name.
And all this history, it culminates in the birth of a child into this family, an orphan, born with this incredible legacy of leadership and divine providence already waiting for him. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How do the stories of our own ancestors, the challenges they faced, the reputations they built, how do they end up shaping who we become?